In the heart of Transylvania, in the Vampire Hall of Fame, there's no vampire zanier than Duckula. This is a standard arcade platformer from the 8-bit era, and to be honest with you, there's not a lot to it. You play as Count Duckula and you have to find a mystic saxophone. Yeah. Hence the subtle name of the game's No Sax Please We're Egyptian. It's a saxophone that's in Egypt. Yeah. The quality of the pun pretty much matches the quality of the game, if I'm absolutely honest with you. The game is in monochrome on the Spectrum, which makes working out where you are on the screen really annoying at times. And thankfully I can only imagine how bad it was to play this on a CRT screen back in the 80s, because I never actually played it on a CRT screen back in the 80s. I avoided that problem, and I hope that you did too. But let's just imagine how it would have gone. Are you winning?
I have no idea. Is this thing tuned in properly?
How would I know? It's your TV.
I thought it was your TV. This is your house, isn't it?
I thought it was your house.
Let's get out of here and never speak of this again!
In order to be able to find the mystic sax, you need to be able to navigate the castle. Or is it a pyramid? I'm not entirely sure. I think it might be a pyramid now I'm thinking about it. But it means unlocking several doors and collecting a few items along the way. To unlock the doors, you need to find a load of keys, which are strewn around the castle, seemingly at random. The speed the game runs at is phenomenal. I will give it that. I'll grant it that much. But it's both a blessing and a curse. It's great that it runs at... it's so annoying at times. It's great that it runs that fast, but it makes jumping across from the top set of stairs over to a platform very annoying. And it's also pretty frustrating that there's so little else to the game except for this platform jumping and occasionally managing to find some keys that you need while avoiding a couple of monsters, but mostly it's just wandering about. And to be honest with you, that's not good enough. It's a decent game, albeit with some severe colour limitations, but there's nothing else to it. The Amstrad CPC version fares just as badly, although it is a little slower, so you can at least get the sense that you're controlling the Count a bit more than just aiming him and hoping for the best. All in all, it could have been better, but it could have been an awful lot worse. And speaking of worse, I'm having to give it the side eye, because if you look at it full on, you will go mad from the revelation. Because I am not going to do 2 episodes about Count Duckula games. There's just no way that I could possibly inflict that on you. So, we have to now deal with the inevitable elephant in the room. So, let's just get into it. Welcome to the worst game that has ever been created. It's Count Duckula 2 on the Amstrad CPC. This is the game that Sinclair user readers voted the worst Spectrum game of all time. This is the game that Amstrad Action gave 3% to when they reviewed it because, and I quote, it loaded. This is the game that I once told Novabug wasn't a game, it was a letter of resignation that was accidentally published. It really is that bad. Some people have declared E.T. on the Atari 2600 to be the worst game ever made. They cite its confusing game design, the fact that it helped to trip Atari over the edge and go into the massive farce that we all like to know and love as the video game crash of 1983. Of course, it was only in North America. The home computers and the cheap budget games in the UK did save it, but not this one. Oh my goodness, not this one. To those people who say that E.T. is the worst, I have only one thing to say. E.T. is a masterpiece compared to Count Duckula 2. This is a Target LCD game in computer form. It is atrocious. The Amstrad CPC could display 16 colours on screen at once just using BASIC. If you got the basic manual and followed the instructions, you could put 16 colours on screen at once and it would have no problems with it. And if you knew what you were doing, it could handle hundreds of colours all at once, and it would do it well. Nevertheless, this game presents you with 2 colours, and it moves about the speed of ASS. It feels like it's running in uncompiled BASIC in a way that was written by someone who had never seen a computer before, let alone BASIC. Forcing someone to play this game should be a violation of the Geneva Convention. How alternative software thought this was acceptable quality to release is beyond me. It just goes to show the level of contempt that this publisher had for 8-bit gamers by the end of the 80s. But that's not even the worst part. It's so bad, guys. The worst part is that the game is almost playable. And I'm surprised, I shocked myself by saying that, but it's true. It's slow. It's buggy. The platforms that you're supposed to walk on just don't show any indication that they're about to disappear, and then you fall to your death, and you just have to guess at the timings if you want to try and get through. If you manage it, which is an exercise in patience more than actually an exercise of skill, then all you get at the end of the game is a text message saying that you can now go back to Earth to have a broccoli sandwich. And I am not joking, by the way, that is the end game screen. And to top it all off, guys, the Amstrad CPC version has a game-breaking bug in it. How they managed to take a game that's bad already and make it worse, I just don't know. But there is a game-breaking bug. You cannot jump off the top of the screen. Now that might sound a bit weird, but here's the thing. You need to be able to jump off the top of the screen in order to get through some sections. No one playtested this thing. No one. In some parts of the game, platforms are near the top of the game screen. To reach them, you will need to jump. Now that's perfectly fine on the Spectrum version, because Duckula will just partially disappear off the top of the game screen for a moment while you're jumping. Then it'll come back down onto the platform and you can continue to play. You can't do that on the Amstrad. Duckula will smack his head into the hard border at the top of the screen. So those sections that require you to jump to a high platform therefore become impossible to clear without the help of the world's crappiest superhero, Tremendous Terrence. When summoned, Terrence will fly across the screen, dragging Duckula to the end of the level. You only get a limited number of summons for him though, so you'd really better use them only on the broken levels if you want to get anywhere in this game. And that's what makes it so frustrating, guys. I grew up on Specky Pots. The Amstrad was the third fiddle in a lot of gaming senses. We knew that if we were going to get some games, once the proper established order was set up, we were going to get the dregs, because there were comparatively few of us. So if we were getting a port, it was from a Spectrum, which meant that the Specky version was done first, and if we were lucky and there was enough time for the coder to do it, he might add a few more colours. But the majority of the time it was a Specky port, so we knew we were going to get slower games. They might be slightly unresponsive. It was just the price you paid for having an Amstrad. The Amstrad was great, I adore it, but I know what the reality is. And we all did back then. So we expected some Specky ports, but this, it goes below and beyond our lowest expectations. This thing, it takes everything that was wrong with Specky ports from the time and it distills it down into an experience that is akin to drinking phlegm. And then it takes that experience, it mashes it into a cassette, and it charges you money to play it. But we're not even done yet, are we? Because this is a Specky port. We have to face the inevitable. There's a Spectrum version, and we have to play it. The Spectrum version is actually more playable. It's fast, it's relatively responsive, it's just as poorly constructed as the CPC version, which tells me that the CPC is just running unmodified Spectrum code, and that's why it's so atrociously slow, but it is at least playable on the Specky. Sadly, that doesn't mean it's any more enjoyable. While playing this version, it really drove home the fact that there's no game here. I wasn't joking when I compared it to a Tiger LCD game. It is that level of almost being a game, but not quite managing it. You can almost see what they were aiming for, but it's clear that they missed the mark. And it's awful. The game is actually so poorly written that at times you can see where the disappearing platform code doesn't actually work properly. Parts of the platform, they're still on screen because the code doesn't work to clear it all away. The game knows it's not there though, so don't make the mistake of trying to stand on that platform because it's a phantom and you'll fall to your death. And you will fall often. There are no two ways about it. This game, this duck, a creature that can fly, will die if he falls more than an inch or two below where you're standing. There's just no justifiable reason for that, other than to make the game marginally more difficult than walk from the left of the screen to the right of the screen, and it's just stupid, just like everything else in the game. But that pretty much sums this up, doesn't it? It's stupid, it's not properly thought out, and what is here doesn't work properly. It's a mess. It really is just a mess. But that's not even the worst part, is it? Of course it's not. This thing just keeps going. It's the big crap sandwich, and we're all going to have to take a bite, and then we're going to have to take another bite, because even now we are not through with this mess. There is another version. We have to take a look at it too, because in this version there's another level. What the hell? This is actually playable? Oh my goodness! On the Commodore 64, the game starts with a decent enough shooter level. It looks pretty good. It's fast. It's actually playable. And I'm actually genuinely surprised here. This is kind of fun. It's not the best shooter ever, but I've played a lot worse. So does that mean that the rest of the game's going to be good as well? No, sadly not. Oh well, it was a nice dream while it lasted. I mean, okay, sure, this is far more colourful, and yes, this is far more quick, and yes, it is far more responsive, but it's still the same flawed level design, it's still the same game that has next to no gameplay, it's still crap. Oh. The only good part of this game is the asteroid level, and it's right at the start, here on the Commodore 64. It's the part of the game's story that's actually explained in the inlay for all of the versions, including the Spectrum and CPC, but you don't get to play it on those. Which is a massive shame, really, because shoot 'em ups were actually games that were very good and very popular at the time, both on the CPC and on the Spectrum. So it's a shame that they're not here, because those computers could do a shooter well, especially a vertical scrolling one like this. So they took the best part, the part that would work the best on those machines, out of the ZX80 versions. And that's just really annoying, because essentially what they left us with was a bucket full of slop, and they were charging $1.99 a pop to play it. In the end, both Count Duckula games are incredibly flawed, just in different ways. There's some promise in the first game, but the way it executes the ideas that it has, they're just not brilliant. The game is reasonably quick, but the graphics make it difficult to enjoy it, and there's not a lot to it even if you can get past all of that. For the sequel, even the few good qualities that the original game has have been stripped out. There's nothing good here. Even in the comparatively decent C64 version, it feels like an excessively cheap cash-in. And let's face it, that is exactly what it is. That's what it was created for, and there's really no love to it. Count Duckula is a great character. His TV show still holds up today. And the fact that they just left half of the second game out of the Amstrad and Spectrum version, where is it? It's not there. And it's testament to just how little care and attention was given to some of these licensed games back in the day, especially this one. It was chucked out on the cheap. It's got to have been for, I don't know, getting a quick buck before people realised how bad it was and word spread. I don't know, but I can't recommend either of the games. The first one, it's moderately acceptable. It's monochrome, it shouldn't be, but it is, and it works too fast on the Spectrum, and then has no colours on the Amstrad, and neither of those is excusable. But the second one, there's nothing there to recommend at all. It's just a mess. So, my advice is, avoid. Count Duckula could have been great, but it's not, because it wasn't given the care and the respect that it needed. And that's all I've got time for today, so thank you so much guys for joining me. It's been a while since we had a GameHammer episode. I want to bring it back in 2021. It's just been one of those years. I think we can all agree that 2020 is a good excuse. So Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'll see you next year. Roll on 2021. Let's just get in there. Get in there straight away and make something better of it than these guys made of Count Duckula 2. See you later. If you like the show, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It really does help create future videos. That's patreon.com/Zoe Kirk-Robinson. And I've got an extra special thanks going out to Chief89, Tepic, Sam Yates, and Retro Mickey 82. Thank you so much, guys.